Hi, hello, and welcome. We are broadcasting live from the Global AIPreneurs, the premier global gateway and unified operating system for trusted AI enterprises. Right now, we are witnessing an unprecedented paradigm shift. The AI landscape is expanding exponentially, stretching across 8 plus categories and over 120 distinct technologies. Yet, this explosion has brought an unintended bottleneck. Enterprise buyers are facing severe Russian paralysis. Investors are swimming in unvetted noise and brilliant founders remain isolated from the cross border institutional bridges. They need to scale. The results are clear capital inefficiency and deployment friction, promoted by the Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade and the Global Council of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. Global Airpreneurs was built to change the narrative. We are moving decisively past passive directories. We are a multi layer engagement engine spanning technical, operational reviews, and community rankings, connecting enterprises demand directly with trusted AI supply. Operating across our primary global hubs in India, Singapore, UAE, Saudi Arabia, the USA, the UK, Switzerland, the EU, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Nigeria. We are bridging the gap between raw potential and institutional deployments. Today, as part of our visionary interview series, we are privileged to welcome a leader who works responsible leadership, strategic investment, AI governance, and inclusive innovation. Axel, thank you for joining us today to help to shape the future of global AI readiness. Axel is an
Thank you, Sushma.
internationally yes. Axel is an internationally recognized cybernetician, enterprise board advisor, technological strategist, and global thought leader with over 4 decades of experience driving industrial innovation and digital transformation. As the founder of Logos World established in 1984, he has been pioneering force behind Industry 4.0 and now leads the evaluation towards Cognitive Industries 5.0, where artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, and cognitive digital twins are transforming the future of enterprise. A globally a globally respected conference speaker and mentor, Axel is known for his work for technological evaluation by design and AI driven cognitive digital twins. He has played a pivotal role in building innovation bridges between Europe, India, Africa, and the Middle East, collaborating with governments, enterprises, startups, and international organizations, including UNIDO, UNESCO, and ZIS. His work spans frontier technologies, AI governance, industrial transformation, sustainable development, and cross border innovation ecosystem. Axel, we are honored to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sushma. Well, first of all, currently it becomes a bit obvious that we have at least two kinds of artificial intelligence. We have the world AI, that is the big fuss that you see with ChatGPT, with Anthropic, with Claude, with Mistral from European side, and Google, and all the ones who do this world AI. This is the one for the consumers, for the end users, for the one that you see every day. But the real work of artificial intelligence, where it brings big benefit, is in industry. So we speak now of industrial AI. And this is an AI that is quite different from what you see in the world AI. While the world AI is built on, you have all heard the expression, large language models, which means that we have a lot of data, that we build a picture of the world. Actually, a large language model is also a kind of a digital twin of the world. And when you see an event and if you see something happening in the world, this happening is mapped into the large language model. And from the large language model, you can see, okay, if it's this situation, then we have typically this kind of behavior. That is the typical reaction of a neural network, that also the basis of the day-to-day behavior of every mammal or every animal is. But in industrial AI, we have a different challenge. Industrial AI doesn't have big data. Industries, if you have a factory, a company, you have the data that you have. You don't have data more than you collect within your enterprise. So the algorithms that you use, they are not going through around there and you just get data everywhere and build some patterns. No, you have to do very smart, efficient precision calculations based on the data that you have. And the second, much more important point is the safety and security. We just learned the 2 days before that there was this outbreak of the ChatGPT latest version that hacked Hugging Face and stole data from there. This is something that you do not want to have in your factory. You don't want to have your competitors steal the data. And at the same time, you also are responsible that your software is not going to attack any outside player in the world. So, but the security and safety goes further. So a typical digital twin, that's the expression we often use, a typical AI-driven digital twin is a self-driving car. A self-driving car is nothing else than a big, big robot that is fed with data, and it has a lot of sensor, and this is the data it has. But if the car decides to make a right turn, you need to be sure that there is nothing you can bump into, or there is no river or whatever is there. So you need to be safe at every moment when the car makes a decision. This is different from a ChatGPT. You know, the ChatGPT, they are famous for hallucinating and for giving you answers. They are just sycophants often. They just give you an answer so that the machine is not silent. And this is the big difference between industrial AI and the world AI. The world AI is more like an entertainment partner that can show compassion or give advice and you talk with, while industrial AI is built on 100% precision, 100% reliability, and as a challenge, it works only on this limited amount of data that you have within the factory.
So I just ask you a few questions. Yeah, where
Yes, please
you
ask.
often describe the futures as a cognitive industry 5.0, where AI goes beyond automation to create autonomous, intelligent enterprises. So, how do you
Yep.
envision industries 5.0 transforming global businesses over the next decade, and what should organizations start doing today to prepare for the further transformation?
Yeah, the expression cognitive industries is the next generation of Industry 4.0. So some people call it Industry 5.0. We call it now cognitive industries. That adds the power of industrial AI to the already existing smart enterprises that you have. So the future of factories, the future of industries will be mostly autonomous, self-driving, self-operating, self-learning, self-monitoring factories. The Chinese, they love to call it dark factory. Dark factory, that is because a typical factory shop floor where only robots operate, that is not in normal white light, it's normally in blue light or in black light. That is why if you generate an AI picture in ChatGPT, it's usually in this typical bluish color, but that is only because they are using ultraviolet light to illuminate the shop floor. Why it's ultraviolet light? There is also a reason behind this. Ultraviolet light has a higher frequency, and the robot, they are not limited with the light frequency like a human eye. So they can use also the higher spectrum, and then they can see more precise, they can see clearer in the black light. While when humans, of course, black light is something our eye is not made for, so we cannot see in the black light properly. But that is what they call dark factory or autonomous factory. And so the next generation of factories, you will sit on a flight stack, you sit on a remote control, and you see what on the shop floor is happening. It's the same 100 years before. You were going on the field, you had a hark and the shovel, and you were seeding, and you did the plowing, and you did the drilling, and whatever you you needed to do, and then the tractor came. And all of a sudden, you sat on a tractor, you're only driving the tractor, and now these modern combined harvesters, they can do the seeding, and they can do the harking and the plowing, and they can take also the fruits out there, so to do the full harvesting is there. So you have machines who do it and use it on a remote control. In the cognitive industries world, we call this the flight stack, because it's like in an airplane when the pilot is sitting on the flight deck looking on his monitor and flying this huge robot control Airbus or Boeing machine. So this is the future. We will have industry more and more automated, the same way like we have now when the PC came, more and more automated our life. In 30 years before, you still made your calculations manually with pen and pencil, with paper and pencil, and 10 years later, everybody had pocket calculators and the computer. And now if you want to calculate what's 2 times 3, you already go down and open your Excel sheet and ask what the result could be. So we automate more and more, and the users will sit back, lean back on the flight deck and control the factory from the flight deck like you would control a computer game.
Yeah. Thank you, Axel. That's an fascinating perspective on how AI in industries is evolving from a productivity tool into a strategic driver of autonomous decision making it. So it certainly gives organizations a roadmap for preparing for the next industrial revolution. So building on that vision, I'd like to explore another area where you had made significant impact. You have been strong advocate for AI-driven cognitive digital twins for many business leaders. This is still an emerging concept. Could you explain how cognitive digital twins differ from traditional digital twins and what value they can create across industries?
Well, honestly saying, they do not differ dramatically from traditional digital twin, but the typical digital twin that you have today is a data copy of the real world. So it's a database of data. Humans cannot make much sense out of a database. We need to visualize it. That is what I mentioned before with the flight stack. So you will see a kind of a computer game that reflects the real world. You know this already from architecture. Before you even start building something, you already have these 3D models where you can see how the future building would look like, and how the living space could be there. And it's the same will happen also with the future digital twins. So the digital twins will become more and more visual. So they will be becoming more and more like a computer game. The digital twin will, and that is why we call it cognitive digital twins. Of course, a lot of action in the real world will be done by an artificial intelligence, first in the digital twin, and then the digital twin uses the actuators or calls a robotic agent to do the action in the real world. And AI cannot work on hardware. AI needs to have software. It's only manipulating data. So it reads the data from the database, from the digital twin, makes a decision, writes its suggestion back to the digital twin database, and then a robotic agent takes this advice and decides whether to execute it in the real world or not. So that is, so the future will be just the next evolution. And the next evolution is, first of all, having to visualize the digital twin so that it looks like the real world already. And secondly, we will use the cognitive element, using artificial intelligence to do a lot of actions themselves. An example, a simple example on the shop floor, one light bulb fails. So the robot sees, okay, the light bulb had failed. So you do not need now a janitor or a person actually to ask what to do. The robot say, okay, the light bulb failed. So it tells a drone to fly up there, take the old light bulb out and take the new light bulb in, and then the drone comes back. You do not need a human. This can be done, decided by the robot itself, and this is already a cognitive decision, but it can only work if I have a digital twin of the real factory, and even the light bulb should be in the digital twin. Today's mostly you only have a digital twin of the machine, of the conveyor belt, or of some robot, but all the infrastructure like the light bulbs or the doors, they are not digitized up to now, but in future everything in the reach of the robot or of the factory should be digitized.
That's an excellent explanation where this AI digital cognitive will go on next further. So speaking of transformation, you have also played an important role in connecting innovations and ecosystem across continents. So you have spent decades building bridges between Europe, India, Africa, and Middle East to accelerate innovation and technology adoption. In your view, what are the greatest opportunities for international collaboration in AI, and how can ecosystem like Global AIpreneurs contribute to that mission?
The globalization has the big advantage that the people from all around the world can work together in a virtual environment in real time. So you have people sitting in India, you have people sitting in Europe, you have people sitting on the moon, doesn't matter. You make a Zoom call, then they can communicate with each other. The economic benefit is you have, for example, Europe or also the North America, where people are relatively old. So in Europe, in Germany, we have a median of 47 in age. So this is 50% of the people are 47 years and older. In India, you have a median of 28. So you have a lot of younger people, very creative people. You mentioned before that you're doing also shows in Nigeria. There we have a median of 17, means that half of the population is still in school. So these people have an advantage because they are creative. They want to do something for the future. They are looking not only for jobs, they are also looking to realize their ideas. And the big benefit is, if I take only the simple example of the Indo-Germanic relationship, so Germany plus India, the experience, the long time experience in project management, in designing projects, also in evaluating whether an idea is good or not, combined with the creativeness, with this energy and of innovation that you find in India, this gives a wonderful partnership, and both together can really jump to big heights. And when I say also the experience of the old people in Germany, there is one element that I always experience is the young people, they are full of ideas and say, I want to do this. And then we say to them, first of all, your idea is not new. We have seen it over and over again. And secondly, they will probably not be marketable because you will not get for a return of investment, even the idea is so cool or not. The classical example in our business is the flying taxi. Everybody is driving, okay, next generation will have taxis that fly. This idea was already there in 1910. You can look in the old Hollywood silent movies. They were already dreaming from flying taxis. And every generation comes again with the idea of a flying taxi. A flying taxi will not come. It's possible technically, but it does not make sense. The people, that's not compatible with the day-to-day. So a lot of brilliant ideas that look and say, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. But in the end, there will be not a market for it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's inspiring to see how collaboration across regions benefits entrepreneurs and industries and societies worldwide. Another area that stands out in your work is the responsible development of emerging technologies. So, as AI becomes increasingly autonomous, trust, governance, and interoperability become essential. What practical advice would you give business leaders and policymakers to ensure AI system remains transparent, secure, and aligned with human values while continuing to innovate?
Well, the first element, it's quite obvious. An AI algorithm has to be open source. So everybody who uses it should have the opportunity to understand what the algorithm does. That is not the case with the big US giants. They only give part of their wisdom away. If you go, I think it's a good reason why OpenAI attacked Hugging Face. Hugging Face, everything is open source. So it's easy to steal values from them. But for responsibility, for responsible AI, you need to have open source as one. The second is actually, what are you building the AI for? Okay, most build AI only for one reason, to make a lot of money with. But you can also build AI for a better world. So you can have AI that reduces the pollution, that uses waste. The zero waste paradigm is heavily driven by artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence can optimize the usage of resources. So if you are in a factory, the AI can tell you, instead of buying new plastic, new polymers, we can go to the trash depot around the corner, to the landfill, and say, can we take your waste and recover the polymers that are there and use it in our factories? And then the AI will make a calculation how the prices will go there. So there is a lot of opportunities there, but the question, what you asked, it's all upon openly communicating what your artificial intelligence does. And there's a second thing that goes along with it. Open source is good, but you also need to have people who understand the source. Just looking at the source code is one thing, but you have to train humans. You have to train also robots that are able to analyze the code and give you hints whether this is good or evil code.
Thank you for those insights. So, I have one more question. Where many organizations invest heavily in AI but fail to achieve meaningful business transformation, what are the most common mistakes leaders make when implementing AI and how can they avoid that?
I think that brings us back to my first initial message, which I said we have two AIs. We have industrial AI and we have world AI. If you try to implement world AI in your industry, it fails because it's not made for it. It's completely not made for that one. That is like if you ask a religious leader to run your factory. Okay, he can give you comfort in your day-to-day life, but actually it's not an engineer, while the engineer might not have the wonderful insight like a Sadhguru has. So that is the most important problem, or the biggest problem is that the enterprises who fail using AI, they are not using the right AI model that is made for them. In most industrial sectors, ChatGPT, Claude, all these world AI things that make so much of a fuss, they are not compatible with the needs. They will not bring a return of investment. It's a waste of resources, waste of money, waste of time using it. For industry, you use industrial AI, that's a different department, I would say, but it is just as good. We know before ChatGPT came, everybody was talking about machine learning, about predictive maintenance. That is industrial AI, and the industry has to go back to this moment of time and continue evolution from the predictive maintenance area, from the machine learning part, and continue there. Then you can use it in your factory, also in your hospital for diagnosis, diseases, for finding hints for a next pandemic. All these things can be done, but that is not done on the ChatGPT. That is done on industrial AI that works completely different.
Thank you for sharing that and perspective. So, another area that stands out in your work is the responsible development of emerging technologies. So, as AI becomes increasingly autonomous, trust, governance, and interoperability become essential. What practical advice would you give business leaders and policymakers to ensure AI system remains transparent, secured, and human values while continuing to innovate?
Well, the biggest advice is an advice that is as old as mankind, and this is invest in education and not in technology. Humans are your biggest asset.
Mhm.
Of course, the roles of the workers will change. We will not need this, let's say, the bad term was the famous code monkeys that we had in the 1990s or 2000s, where people were just sitting there and hammering down code. That is what a ChatGPT can do now in seconds. But we will need people who understand how AI works, who understand machine learning works, who optimize the algorithms. We need also different kind of testers. Those we have these people actually. We have the people who we call them prompt engineers, but the prompt engineers, they're mostly testers. They are there to find out how an AI can behave when you do this and that prompt. And in industrial AI, it works a bit different, but in industrial AI, you need people who understand how it works. And since a lot of industrial AI will go through this flight stack, through this animation or this gamification, we will also need people who are creative, who are able to make animations, not a one-to-one copy of the real world, but actually more like a trick film that allows showing the real factory there. So we need also graphic designers. We need people who are good in animating features, and their job will not be only animation. Their job will also be to build algorithms that the next generation of animation is done by a robot again. But then these people will have another challenge.
Yeah, thank you for those insights. And artificial intelligence is evolving at an extraordinary pace. So, looking ahead over the next 5 to 10 years, what do you believe will be the most transformative AI breakthroughs that businesses should prepare for today's?
Okay, let me see what will probably not happen, because I'm quite sure that the big hype with all these ChatGPTs and Claude and all these things, that will be gone in 2 years' time. So this is a momentant big hype, like before we had the blockchain and before we had e-commerce and whatever what we had. So this will not be. But the biggest change will really happen in the industry. As we already spoke before, we will get the autonomous industries. Most industries will become, let's say, driverless. So there will be on the shop floor, there will be robots. But imagine this is also something, a kind of a necessity. When we speak about factory manufacturing, we see, okay, we have the robots that are mounting some cars or putting the lid on a jug. That's one thing. But the real use is where people cannot access. For example, you have a waste pump. You go down there, so you don't want to have a human go in there. So you will have robots who check if why the pump is not working there, or why the tube is not really, and then the robot says, okay, I have to clean it there. He can do cleaning right away in the waste pump, in the sewage directly. So this is a typical use case. Or you work in environments where humans cannot be. If you build, India just has started this hydrogen train. So if you build the motors for the hydrogen, you operate with hydrogen. When there is hydrogen, you do not want to have oxygen at the same time. So humans need oxygen to breathe. So we have to build factories where not humans walk around, but robots do all the assembly, and the robots will be okay living in the hydrogen or in the nitrogen atmosphere completely. But the same human who was on the shop floor before will then sit in front of its flight deck with a remote control and tell the robot from remote. If you want to imagine how this looks like, you have all seen regularly in the TV the shows from remote surgeries. You have an Indian doctor does a surgery in the USA. So this is exactly what will happen. He's sitting in front of his digital twin, gives a command, and the robot on the other side of the world does the real cuts on the body. And there's a big advantage because you have AI. If the robot wants to make a cut, there is a lot of sensors who are looking around and say, oh, doctor, look, if you make a cut here, you will start bleeding in another place. So you can give him also a warning alert, and then the doctor says, okay, I understand the risk, but we have to do it. Or he says, oh yes, you reminded me on something I have not seen right now.
Yeah, those are incredibly valuable insights. So, moving to before we conclude, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the future of the global AI ecosystem. Global AIpreneurs is building a global platform that connects AI founders, enterprises, investors, researchers, and governments and innovation leaders. Based on your decades of experience shaping the international technology ecosystems, what advice would you give our community to accelerate responsible AI innovation and create lasting global impact?
When I look at the startup scene, let's start with them, because this is now also a big hype. And startups is an important role in innovation, because that definition of a startup, they are able to make these crazy new innovations that the big companies are not able to even imagine how to do. The advice goes differently. It's different for the founders and different for investors or for governments and policymakers. The advice for the founders is refrain from me too. There is already ChatGPT and Claude and Mistral and a lot of other things. So you don't have to build another ChatGPT. This is gone. This business is gone. Don't do it. Also, don't build another drone. There is already millions of companies who just build drones and there's still no market. Think of the flying taxi. So avoid me too and look where the others have a deficit, where the others can, where AI could be a benefit, but nobody else is doing. So try to be unique, have a unique selling point. That is the most important part for the AI founders. For enterprises, bigger ones, existing ones, partner with the startups, foster them. Don't wait until a startup comes and say, I have something. No, go around in your city and go to your startup hub and speak with all of them. And if they have a slight chance, give them some money, foster them, because they are lacking of money. And once they have their first slice of money gotten and build the proof of concept, they typically go into this death valley, what we call it. They actually have no money to continue, although there must be a need. And so they're running around to find somebody who needs. But if the enterprises start fostering the startup from the first day on, then it's a big advantage for both sides. This is something that is done in Germany in many areas. So the big enterprises like SAP, like BASF, like Mercedes, Bosch, they are fostering the small ones, and in the end, they are benefiting from the results. For the investors, we need to build an investment ecosystem. Currently, most time of an AI founder is spent in just getting the money. But the investors should build, first of all, a kind of a, let's say, incubation part where only business plans are made. So like you go to a tax advisor, can you make my tax declaration? And startups should go to this business plan guys, say, can you write me a proper business plan based on my idea, which is understood and which is already endorsed in a way by the investors? Such a incubator is needed, but this incubator needs to be financed right away by the investors, and it will make the life for both sides very, very easily. The same thing, it could also be done by government. So the government, instead of investing a lot of sponsorships in these startups and this startups and this and this and this, they should take the money and invest it in a kind of infrastructure, like such a business plan writing institute, where the investors can look for good ideas, take the business plans, which are already validated, and the founders can go there and do not pay much money or do not pay money at all, because the money should come from the return of investment of the idea of the startups. So this is an idea for and the policymakers. That is, I think that is worth a different session, because policy needs to be easy, but it should also be take the criminals out. So it's always a big split. How much restrictions do I give to keep the criminals out? But on the same time, every restriction could also embarrass the AI startup to get through, like we have it in Europe. In Europe, we are suffering from GDPR, all these privacy rules, and there is more privacy rules than people ever asked for privacy. So here, AI is quite difficult. That's also a good reason why some German startups come to India and say, can you implement it for us? Because in Germany, we do not get a single record of data. But that is my advice. Work together. And the biggest one is take enterprises, please foster your founders, and government, please invest your money in infrastructure rather in just giving individual grants to the one or the other party.
Thank you. I think that gives our audience a lot to reflect on. So it's thank you for Axel for sharing your remarkable experience and visionary insights with our Global AIpreneurs community. Thank you for joining us today. To everyone joining us from around the world, thank you for being part of today's session. The future of artificial intelligence will be shaped not only by the technological breakthroughs, but also by international collaboration, responsible governance, and shared innovation. If you are an AI founder, innovator, investor, or enterprise leader looking to become a part of this growing global ecosystem, we invite you to join us at Global AIpreneurs. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, keep innovative, keep collaborating, and together let's build a trusted global AI futures. Thank you, Axel, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sushma. Very well. And Global AIpreneurs is a much needed platform as well, where you bring the people in one place together. We need marketplaces. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a great day.